So I think I got caught up a little bit too much in the video game aspect. I really thought since this was the new line that it was going to be something contradicting that. But no, we got his actual name, and then this line where he's like, I got no kinfolk or nothing. This, and I'm surprised that this is actually the way you're supposed to do it. Contradicting, because that was his room, and everything in it but the signboard was his. We have to
assume that this is his as well.
We have to assume that this is his as well. So,
she's not family
if
member.
so,
She's just the woman I stalk.
why would he keep a picture of this woman?
The woman he stalks.
If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why it is that among the sparse furnishings, we found this photograph in the room. Ah. I presume as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not? Well... Mr. Boone, drop the pretense, and tell the court exactly who you really are! I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler, I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please just leave it alone. As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life, it has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Inspector Gregson. Objection! No! Just look at the man. No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features. But what if he wore a wig? What if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean? Yes, Counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of an elaborate disguise. Eh? Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Huge Bone? You mean He-Moon? Ah! Good witness, are you still hiding the truth from this court? If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. My lord, the defense believes that it can reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court. Who? Please, no. Very well then, Counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who goes simply by the name of Gossip on the street? Daily Vigil.
Take that!
Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil. Yeah! I don't recall that name, Counsel. Who is this Mr. Vigil? Once again, sure is convenient that we were investigating this completely unrelated case that ended up being relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Sholmes.
It's not. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sholmes. It's not nearly as egregious as the previous case, but god damn it. The name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact. This is Mrs. Vigil. What? From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead. But of course on that night, you were being held captive by the two Red-Headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. because we'd been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we needed to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry, waiting for you at the Vigil residence. Now, you just hold on a minute. I don't have the... What I'm talking about? I don't have the faintest idea. What I'm talking about? Really? It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise. No, please don't pull off my lips. Bailiff! Bring soap, a sponge, and a washbowl at once. Mr. DeRusso and Mr. Rossi, you will restrain the witness. Why?
Why are we having other witnesses restrain the witness?
Oui, my lord. See, my lord! No, stop! Get off me! Don't! Let's see who this monster really is. It's a good disguise, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
If it weren't for the hair, I wouldn't have put it together immediately. Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume.
Oh, they even changed.
And his true fucking clothes! Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face. Dots. It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man before? Oh, I don't believe it, but... See! There is no question! This is the inspector we saw in the park! Extraordinary!
I will probably still bring the box.
On the day of the Red-Headed League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson, who appeared before Mr. DeRusso and Mr. Rossi in the park, was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all. Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison. Chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why, you would quite possibly have become the future governor of the prison. What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street? Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years. I like how Ryunosuke is the only one that's actually informed at this point. Because nobody saw this twist coming. I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I am Daily Vigil, the stupidest name in all of Ace Attorney. And you were the chief... I gotta change his voice up, it's too similar to Kazuma's. And you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago. Dots. So where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from? Boone is the other me. It's a name I invented. Well, evidently there is a great deal under the surface here. I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago that my employment at Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street. But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you are the chief warder at Barclay Prison. I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my feelings, which is why I've never told her.
She's standing right there in the...
Oh! I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street. The scene of the very crime we're investigating. Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler, and transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine. I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room, but that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us this in the first place? I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons. 2 sons! Seriously? And without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I couldn't bring myself to disappoint them. So instead you decided to conceal your occupation from them. Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything.
Oh, shit.
So in 10 years, you were never able to find a competent job other than just peddling gossip? Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder at the prison. Very true. To have kept your family in comfort, despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment.
I also hoard myself.
I hoard myself out. That was all thanks to Inspector Gregson. What? Inspector Gregson? What on earth? It was some years after I'd invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. He, the inspector that is, recognized me one day. Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours? I knew him from my time working at the prison.
Gregson! I've missed you. Where are your chips?
It's just a picture.
Gregson!
Calm down, son. It's just a drawing. When he saw what I had become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with increasingly regularity. Then one day, he asked me if I would carry out a secret assignment for him. A secret? What was it? Ooh, gossip! I was to impersonate the inspector. What? Impersonate him?
He looked deeply offended.
We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me. Visit Orxie's tomorrow and take a statement from the proprietress. It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially.
He was my sugar daddy.
A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification into your care with intent to deceive. That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense. We shall have to find Inspector Gregson and charge him with such criminal misdeed as... Oh. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him? I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions. Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if, well, if I end up a croaker. Ribbit. time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him. So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Lime Street was really... Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my boon disguise, and then went as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away. So, where does this leave us? Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case. But, why me? Explain yourself, Prosecutor Asugi. My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two red-headed League men when they imprisoned the inspector. But no, that can't be. After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day. It was me. Oh, goodness. Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur le Defense, for proving it. Order! Order! Indeed, it would appear that we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim, as proven, somewhat ironically, by the defense. Oh, fuck me. I hereby call an end to the cross-examination.
Hold it!
Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma? What question, Counsel? It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. What?
Oh, your dad.
The execution of the Professor, Genshin Asogi. I want to know what love is, and what exactly your involvement was. Oh. Answer me, man! One moment, Counsel! Is this related to the current case? Fuck the current case! Naturally. Shoot, yes. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked. Well, if you say so. Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual.
It's almost as if this is personal.
Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memories of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asogi's last moments. His own father.
His own father? Do you have personal relations to this case?
Hold on now. That's illegal. I do understand that, but even so... Prosecutor Asogi. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me. Please. Well, okay then. Very well. Then the defense has no objection. I see. It's kind of weird that the prosecutor would raise his objection when I was just about to call the court case in his favor, but okay then. In that case, you will answer the question, witness. The truth is, I remember very little of that time. You've forgotten! I'm sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. But for some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Fuck you! Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruto? Huh? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Well, 10 years ago is a long time, but to have forgotten the reason why he left such an important job? Yeah, you're right. And not only that, Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry, the human spirit? I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. It's something I would know all too well. But it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed. But I really don't. Kazuma-sama. Let me crush this man! So be it! Because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out. One way or another. What? Right. Now I understand. He's fucking crazy. He means to expose the truth. At any cost. Tree fitty. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence?
Nah, fuck it.
Yeah, it's probably fine. I have no idea how this is going to go. But this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to take a look at this! Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events. The reprimand, I'm sure. I mean, it's not contradictory to what happened, but it explains what he did.
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role at the prison... Oh yeah, he did say that. Well, yes. In other words, you claim to have left the post of Chief Warder of your own volition. Well, yes, of course. Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before? No, not really. This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. Dismissal notice. And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil. What? What? It's mine? So you didn't resign from the prison service at all. For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder from Barclay. Now there's been some mistake, I'm sure. I'm sure I tendered my resignation. This dismissal notice is nonsense. Isn't it? If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember. He just starts throwing shit at him. Remember! According to my underwear, The final execution that you supervised was on the 17th of June, 10 years ago. And on that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison. 17th of June. What was that? The Professor's execution? Professor. As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings. It does sound familiar. And yet, that execution never took place! The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave. Convict came back to life. In the cemetery in the middle of the night, yes. There was a witness. We saw the whole thing. However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of his grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder, and the bullet pierced the Professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the Professor's actual last moments. Yes. Yes. Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head. In your head. In your head. You are fighting somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on 17th of June 10 years ago, and now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil?
Passes out. Now look what you did, Kazuma.
Oh, it's all my fault then?
Always is.
Yes. The whole prison, it was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. What? I don't see how any of that was surprising, but okay. Order! 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 Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned? My head, it's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, screams. Oh my goodness. Papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost. Yeah? Enoch Drebber. But surely those reports were exaggerated, right? There were traces at the scene. Traces of what? In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139, blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there. The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging are quite staggering. I've reviewed my underwear from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved. Are you suggesting that a prison warder abetted the man's bid for freedom? Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape. You what? I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me. One evening, he's spinning a lot faster. He's gonna get real dizzy. One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business, but I can't help you now. As chief warder, you were responsible for overseeing the execution of fire, eh? Well, it seems the fellas at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person.
As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, Professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. I let him escape and finished my life. It's over.
And he passed out. Good job, Cosmo.
Order, bailiff! Fetch me a doctor at once! I regret nothing.
No one's surprised.
Court is adjourned for today with immediate effect!
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day. Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Cosima, and Gregson. All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past. But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
Do you want to feed the snakes tomorrow?
Sure. And we'll continue this case and this game next time on Side by Side Plays, in which we do the investigation, I guess.